tutorial, I'm going to show you all guys how to make a sword. These are the swords I'm using for my Dark Knight armor. I just made these today. This is a brand new technique I just learned this morning, as a matter of fact. Props to Cosplay Apprentice for showing me this awesome technique using PVC tubing to get these swords done. So sit back and I'm going to go through the whole process start to finish. Both swords, the build was simultaneous. It took me about 6 hours to do everything. So yeah, hang tight and I'll show you all how it all goes. Alright. Welcome, fellow armor makers. Today, I got you in a weird cage, so just bear with me. Today, I'm going to start working on a sword for my Dragon Knight armor. Basically, I was trying to figure out the best way to do the sword. I had ordered some, there's lots of ways to do it. I had ordered some wooden dowels that'll be in later today. So if I want to do it via foam, I can do it via foam and then use the wooden dowels as support. Having said that, I watched some videos earlier from some fellow prop makers on how they did it. And one of the guys that I admire his work quite greatly, his name, he goes under Cosplay Apprentice, made his sword out of PVC. He made it out of Schedule 30. I have Schedule 40 here. It's just 1/2-inch PVC. And it's pretty interesting because I don't have to worry, if I make it out of this, I don't have to worry about supports. And it's much easier in the long run. So I'm going to give this a shot. I did some little test pieces to see how this stuff would work, you know, and it works pretty awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit here, and I'll speed this up, don't worry. But we're going to heat this up, and once it heats up, we're going to take this 2x4 and we're going to put it on top of here, and we're going to clamp it down. And once it has time to cool down, it'll maintain its shape. So let's go ahead and go through the heating process, which will take a little bit, but you know, it's got to be done. So now that we got that heated up nicely, you can tell it's very flexible. So I'm going to line this edge up, and the reason I'm lining this edge up and it's overhanging is because of the handle is going to be this. Now I am pre-curving this because when I did my little test piece, I learned that once you heat this stuff up again, if you try to heat it up again, it actually goes back to its original shape of being round. So I am pre-curving this time, just a slight curve, kind of like yay. Get that on the edge, and then I'm going to take this 2x4, I'm going to line it up over here so that that handle crimps up nicely. I'm going to push down and get my clamps, which I've got ready. And I'm going to tighten this puppy down nicely. Got to kind of work a little bit fast on this. Go back and, you know, do it again. And I just realized that I tapered the wrong side. Well, that sucks. So let's see how we're looking. Oh, that's nice. That's real nice. So there's a handle, and I'll come back in and, you know, flatten this down, or taper it down, should I say, with the sander and everything to give it that edge that I'm looking for. It's a great shape though, nice two-handed sword. Beautiful little arc in it. And then we'll come back a little later and I'll show you all how I do the rest of it. All right, now that we've got our sword shaped to the proper shape that we want, nice two-handed sword, I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my table belt sander to give it an edge profile on the outer edge like a sword would have. I'll come back in later and, you know, round this tip out so that it's got a nice rounded point to it. But for right now, I'm just going to start with the outer edge profiling and just knock that out. And I'm going to go this way because obviously I only have so much surface to work with. It has a nice edge profile. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. See, it's got a nice edge profile to it now. Like I said, on both sides. It's not too sharp. I don't want it ridiculously sharp. It's actually rather blunt in some places. And actually, it's rather blunt in the whole thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my scroll saw to just taper that off. And then I'll use some filler to fill in the seam. So let me get that knocked out. Alright, I cut that tip piece out with the bandsaw, and that's kind of how it looks. What I'm going to do now is, you can see there's a gap. So I'm just real quickly going to heat this up and just compress this edge. Hopefully that works. We'll see. Just to get this edge kind of pressed together as hard as I can. Now remember, when you heat this up, it will re-expand, so you really got to be careful. See, it's actually sealing itself. So let me get this on here. That should be long enough. Doesn't take long for this to cool down once you've got it clamped. Especially just a tiny little section like that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So now I will taper this down real quick like the rest of it. Alright, we got this tapered off now. Let me show you all what we've done. So here's that tip, nice and tapered into a fashionable sword. And the whole thing's tapered down on both sides. So we got that nice bevel for the blade edge. And then of course the handle. And now it'll be time to do some light sanding. I'm gonna do some light sanding on this just to get this this PVC texture off a little bit before I seal it. And I'm going to use my go-to stuff, which is Plasti Dip. Plasti Dip is awesome stuff for this kind of building. So I'll Plasti Dip this a few coats, and then once I've done that, I'm gonna come back in and do some painting on it, and I'll do the handle work that I need to get done, and then I will come back and seal it, and then it'll pretty much be a done deed at that point. Now begins the agony of sanding. Alright, I have both of these sanded. I just used my little orbital palm sander with a, I don't know, I think it's like a 300 grit or something like that. I just wanted to get the coating off and just kind of clean it up a little bit. So here are the two swords. And you can see that they're nice and even for the most part. Nice edge on them. So next is coating these. So again, I'm going to coat these in Plasti Dip, which is a spray-on rubber, which I have. Here we go. It's this stuff here, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It is spray-on plastic rubber, and this is black. I'm going to do a black coat on these because I want these to look like, you know, the whole armor is supposed to look like black steel, basically, or dark steel at least. So I'm using, I mean, I always use black plasti dip anyway, but in this case it really works out because when I put the black on, it's a great foundation for the silver to give it that dark metallic look when I go to start coating it in paint. So I'm going to go start plasti dipping these. I'll put a few coats on each one at least, and then we'll come back and we'll start looking at paint. So real quickly, I wanted to show you guys what I'm doing right now while I'm waiting for this plasti dip to dry. I was thinking about the handle design on this and what I wanted to do, and I kind of decided I wanted to do a traditional kind of wrap. I'm going to do some other stuff also, but the wrap's going to be the basis for the handle. So this is that 2mm craft foam that I was mentioning and that I've been mentioning. And all I'm doing is making a cut the width of this ruler, which, if I'm not mistaken, is exactly, well, 1 1/8 of an inch, 1 1/8. So I am just making this cut. Cut me out 2 strips, 1 for each sword, obviously. And this will be the basis, or this will be what I use to make the wrap out of. You'll see that here shortly. And there we go. Nice piece. I've already cut the other one. It's over. It's behind here somewhere. It's over there. So yeah, I've already cut this. If you're wondering what these are bench dogs. These are great. These they're just kind of like a soft rubber on either side. Just a little weight. Just hold stuff down. I use them for templates and stuff like that. You can get those on Amazon. Again, called bench dogs. So the swords are covered, and just to show y'all, I have coated them in plasti dip, 3 layers on these, and I'm cheating with the drying, speeding up the drying so I can get all this done, because I'm going to try and get this done today if possible. And if you're wondering why I did not, I made this little holder thing so I could get the fan on them. And if you're wondering why I didn't spray the handles, well, first of all, obviously the handle's going to be wrapped, but I decided the handles were actually a little too thin to be realistic. So I had some 3/4 inch tubing. Remember, the swords are 1/2 inch. So I got this 3/4 inch tubing, and these are going to go over the handle to give it more girth, and then I'll do the wrap after that. And it'll look pretty cool. So we'll see that here in a second. Alright, we're back. So these have had plenty of time to dry now, since I'm accelerating the drying with my little awesome dryer there. And now I'm going to go real quickly, and I'm going to just lay down a light, very light foundation coat of metallic Rust-Oleum. I like the Rust-Oleum. It goes on nice and smooth. You can pretty much use anything. This one's just, it worked really well for the base foundation that I did with this. Now I'm going to go back obviously and do a lot more coats. This was all foam. This was not PVC. But I'm going to go back and do a lot of coats of paint after this, and I'll show you all how I do that. But the base thing, you know, I'm going to get that shiny metallic on it, and then I'm going to come back with the other paints and dirty it up and all that, and then give it the nice edge and the highlights and all that stuff. So let me get this sprayed and I'll be back. Here we go. A quick light coat on these of silver to give it that metallic base that I was looking for. Now you notice, you can't really see it, the coat is very light. It's coating the whole thing, but it's not solid. In the pores, you can still see the black coming through just slightly, and that helps me get a nice dark tint to this metal. And then I'm going to go back, obviously, when I'm done, and I'll do the highlights and the shadow, and then I'll do like a dirt wash job on it, and we'll get on the handle. We'll probably do the handle first, but you get the idea. Alright, so rushing right along, we are going to, let me get this camera in place. I should really buy an actual camera if I'm going to start doing these videos. Anyway, so here's the handle piece. It's all dried, and here's this. I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to wrap this. So first thing I noticed is that this tube, the interior diameter of this tube is a little larger than the exterior diameter of this tube, or the outside diameter. So I'm just going to get a piece of cardstock paper, thicker paper, and I'm just going to wrap it around the edge, just a little bit short. So I'm just going to put some super glue on here just to make the OD just a tad bit thicker at the end, so it's snug, or at least mostly snug. And you know, just super glue, nothing fancy. A lot of this part of this is actually going to be some super glue work. I might do some hot glue where the tang meets the handle. There we go. So that's in there. So all this is going to do is it's going to slide right on in here. It's going to come up to here. Now all I'm going to do here is, if you look inside here, I'm going to drop some glue in up here, up at the top here. I'm going to drop some glue in under here. Oh, sorry about that. There's the handle attached to the sword, and then we'll get the handle wrapped next. I'll come back here in a second and do that. I'm going to get this other sword touched up real quick, and then we'll get to painting. Alright, now this has had time to set for a minute, so we're going to go ahead and start with the handle wrap. So this is going to be pretty simple. It's just this piece of 2mm craft foam that I cut. I had those long rolls of it. I showed you that earlier. I'm just going to give this a traditional style kind of wrap, and then once I am done with that, I will come back and do some design work and stuff to it. But I guess we're supposed to start from the top. Yeah, we'll start from the top. I'm not sure if we're supposed to or not, but that's where I'm going to start. Alright, that's looking good. That actually worked out to be just the right amount too, which is how long my sheet was. So yeah, it worked out nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to clean this top piece so it's nice and even up here. Decided how yet, or what it's going to look like. But there you go, there's the handle wrap. That is awesome. Alright, so I saved you guys the agony of me trying to figure out what I'm going to do on the end piece here. What I ultimately decided was I found a dimmer switch. This dimmer switch is actually perfect size. So I've coated it in some Vaseline, and I'm just going to quickly throw some Worbla on it, make a form out of it. So yeah, that's going to go there. Give it the end cap. I'm going to pull this in. This is kind of where it gets a little tricky. Get this stuff out of the way so I don't cause a fire. Since it just kind of socketed in, but you know what? I kind of like that. Alright. Cut a piece of this, a thin strip of this Worbla. What I'm gonna do is make a mess. Yeah, that works. I think when that's painted, that'll be a cool little effect. All right, moving right along, we are now at paint. All right, so I just did these little, things on the end, just to cover the end up. I decided not to do anything on here because, you know, I don't know if in real world it would have something done on there, and I just don't think it's necessary. So, all right, so paints, I've got 3 different colors, and I put these on in different ways. Let me show you what these colors are. So, this one, I'll put a little on here so you can see it. It's kind of a very grayish kind of metal. It's actually, technically, I believe this is, well, it's a liquid metal. Yeah, that's what it looks like, liquid metal. And then this one here is much darker. It's much more like a I'm lost for words. Much more like an iron. And then this one, super bright. So this is kind of like my go-to when I'm doing this. Obviously I've got these highly metallic shine on top of this already, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come on here. I've got these little bits of foam that I use. This is just furniture foam, and the reason I use it is it's just, you know, I could go back and I could paint it on here, but you know, metal's not painted. So in order to get a little bit more realistic of a look, I like to dab it with this thing. Come back on this ridge and put some darkness in there. And I'm even doing it on the bevel because I'm going to really accent the bevel at a later time when I come back and do highlights. So we'll let this sit and then we'll put a couple more coats on it and then we'll come back. All right, here we go. I've done several coats of the darker silver, the iron, soft iron, and yeah, it's technically gunmetal. I guess I could have told you that earlier. Soft iron or whatever, gunmetal, it's all the same. So now I've got this really bright metallic silver, and I've got a chip brush here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very lightly put this on here, and then I'm going to come back and hit these highlights where the edges would be more shiny and smooth. So I'm just going to put it on here. I'm going to dab it really, you know, I'm going to get a lot of it off. Just get it on the edge, and then you'll see as I come back, especially on the blade edge here, you know, get that highlight in there. And there we go. And it looks pretty awesome. I mean, you can see the highlights in there. You know, you can see those strokes. It looks very realistic, from a distance at least. Let me try. And you know what? Let me pause and then there we go. So yeah, here we go. This is what it looks like. My handle. And I'll come back probably, well, definitely. I'm going to definitely put a coat of a matte kind of lacquer, maybe a semi-gloss lacquer on top of it to protect the paint. I'll probably use a layer of Mod Podge first, which is basically like Elmer's glue. And then of course I'll come back and do some weathering in here, just to kind of give it the more used look. But there you go. Let me see if I can find a better light for this. I'll put you up here, maybe without the garage door light. And this will go like that on my armor. Awesome. All right. And there we go, back to the beginning. I put some highlights and some silver on those end pieces, that little design piece to kind of give it some accent. And that is the finished product. Again, a big props and a big thanks to Cosplay Apprentice for this technique of using this PVC tubing. And also to Bill Duran of Punish Props, and of course Evil Ted Smith, for all the tutorials they give me. The painting and everything was more picked up from Bill Duran. I've watched a lot of his painting videos. These are gonna go great along with the helmet. Yeah, they're gonna look awesome along with it. So big thanks for tuning in, and if y'all have any questions or anything else, just let me know. Thanks.